John should be so lucky. I think all the pheasants will have been hiding in the last few days like I wish I could have. But just to remind you what was the case on Thursday, our brief spell of winter. This is a typical scene virtually everywhere for a time, but the Peak District was particularly beautiful. Clearly cold. And the frost was at its hardest in the Highlands of Scotland last night. By dawn, we still had -8 in Aberdeen, -3 in Newcastle and -2 in Nottingham. But it doesn't take very long to realise it wasn't frosty everywhere. We are undergoing a huge change in the weather at the moment. Not that everyone will notice. It will remain cold, even frosty, from eastern Highlands Scotland down the eastern side of England throughout today. But not everywhere. It is already 12 degrees on the south coast of Wales. It'll become warmer in the southern counties of England and in Northern Ireland this afternoon. There's only one way you can go from a hard frost to such mild weather so quickly. That's by dragging a chunk of air up from somewhere else. Rather than the Arctic, this lot, this is where we are at the moment, is coming up from the subtropics. So a southwesterly wind. Now, such a big change introduces a fairly rare event in this country, rain falling over frozen ground. Yes, there'll be some snow over the hills, but that's not a particular problem. What has been this morning and will be this afternoon is black ice, where the rain freezes on the road. Now, it's particularly been noticeable in Scotland and the northeast of England. But because we're undergoing this fairly rapid change, even before dusk, western Scotland and Cumbria, for example, will be completely free if as temperatures rise. But it may not be the case in eastern Scotland or in northeast England. Of course, there's snow on the hills, and it will be a miserable and cold end to the day, whatever else happens. But travelling will be the biggest hazard. Right the way down the A1, right the way down probably to Lincolnshire. Now, most of us are going to have a grey and horrible afternoon, but these fairly obviously stand out. The sunshine showing in South Wales and the southwest of England. And yes, there is a hole in the cloud. And by dusk, probably just after, we will all just about encounter the mild weather. Guess what that means? The first night since Wednesday with no significant frost. These are nighttime temperatures. For some, they're no different than today's. For example, this is how Bristol will end and will last through the night. So tomorrow is going to be so vastly different. Tomorrow morning may well be cloudy in southern England and in Scotland with a little bit of rain, but there'll be no snow, and there should be no frost and no ice. And there'll be some sunshine, which, although there for some, won't be widespread, will wander around in the afternoon. Mind you, air that comes up from the subtropics is always, I have to say, fairly damp and will give drizzle in one or two places. Tomorrow's temperatures, for some, hugely different. Now, we keep in this sort of westerly flow, strong at first throughout the next few days, and even when the wind becomes lighter, it's never really cold wind, which means that we are now frost-free probably until next week. So the nighttime temperature profiles don't show any blue until we get to next weekend, and of course that's so far away that the forecast could change a little even by then, but expect just light frosts at worst. Tuesday's weather then, cloudy, mild, bright, essentially dry for all of us. On Wednesday a similar story, but rather more cloud could bring drizzle up the western side. It's not substantial rain. There could be a decent bit of rain on Thursday. This is just ahead of the slightly colder end of the coming week. But essentially today is the worst day of the week for virtually everybody except the lucky few in South Wales. From Monday onwards, it's far more like early autumn than early winter.